In this edition of Southern Newsweek, around 6,000 people attend the Great Kiwi Home and Living Show. Mourners farewell the two men who died while power diving in the Catlins. And Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern attends Dunedin's Labour Party conference. Good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. Thousands of people enjoyed everything from high-stakes culinary competitions to interior design inspiration at the Great Kiwi Home and Living Show last weekend. The show was a partnership between Dunedin Venues Management Limited and the Otago Daily Times and attracted about 6,000 people to Forsyth Bar Stadium.
Dunedin Venues Chief Executive Terry Davies thrilled with the success of the Great Kiwi Home and Living Show. He says it's due to the introduction of cooking competitions, which saw many chefs as young as 6 years old to more seasoned cooks whipping up culinary delights. Cake baking judge Annabelle Langbine says competitors rose to the occasion.
These are aged 5 to 9-year-olds, and this isn't so much about eating the cake, it's about the decoration. And the theme is living in Otago, and it's all about the natural world. And people look at this, it's so brilliant. Just the effort and thought that's gone into it, it's so fun.
The Farm to Fork Chef's Challenge saw all manner of beasts dissected, as other celebrity chefs took to the stage, offering insights into their backgrounds. Langbine on hand to give some budding chefs hands-on advice, including this woman who learned how to cook duck.
Annabelle taught me how to cook her duck. I'm not very good at cooking duck personally, and Annabelle's taught me a couple of times how to cook it today, so I'm sure I'll take away and learn from there.
Kiwi Kids Can Cook organiser Huey Blues says the southern leg of his national competition involved 9 local youngsters vying for a place in the finals in Auckland next year. The 2-day event at the stadium also featured many household items aimed at those wanting the best for their homes and gardens. Allied Press commercial manager Matthew Holdridge says he's stoked the event has once again gone off with a bang. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A special exhibition to honour Southlanders who fought and died in World War I has opened in Invercargill. The City Council, together with the likes of Southland Museum and Art Gallery, have collaborated to create the multifaceted exhibition.
I declare this pop-up museum commemorating World War I open.
Invercargill Mayor Tim Shadbolt given the job of formally opening a new exhibition honouring Southlanders who fought and died during World War I.
It's a small display. We're very grateful to have the use of this building, and it's come together, I think, brilliantly.
Part of the exhibition's made up of stories of Southland men killed in the liberation of Le Connoir in 1918, as well as the Invercargill Borough Council employees killed over the 4 years of fighting.
We've got a map that shows the loss of life by Invercargill streets. So of course Invercargill 1914 to 1918 was a smaller city. South Invercargill and Waikiwi then were both separate boroughs with their own mayor and councils, but it does show the streets of the time and the loss of life throughout the 1914-18 Great War.
More than 100 poppies have been knitted by council staff, family and friends, and the exhibition also shows how far communication has come in the last century.
There was a lot of laying of telephone cable, there was the use of dogs and homing pigeons, and for young people today, the idea of those communications in a modern war seems so different.
The exhibition runs till the 10th of November in the former ASB Bank building in Invercargill, the South Today.
Both of the men killed while power diving in the Catlins 2 weekends ago have been farewelled in Balclutha recently. 51-year-old Malcolm Ward was farewelled by mourners in his hometown last Saturday before a private cremation in Dunedin. In tribute to his passion for woodwork, a chainsaw adorned the coffin, while mourners scattered wood shavings from his father's workshop on his coffin. His friend 23-year-old Mitchell McPhee was farewelled last Monday. Around 500 mourners packed the town's South Otago Town and Country Club for a celebration of his life. Be patient. That was the New Zealand Labour Party's message to members during its annual conference held in Dunedin last weekend. It was a message Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern reaffirmed in her leader's speech yesterday. But hundreds missed out on hearing her speech when security concerns had the public restricted from several areas in the upper floors of the town hall.
Making her way through the admiring throng of supporters in Dunedin's town hall, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern reflecting on her meteoric rise in the last year.
When I took over the leadership from Andrew at the beginning of August last year, the election was 7 weeks away. And I said at that time that we'd run the campaign of our lives, and we did.
She announced a $217 million increase in funding for special needs education.
Today I'm announcing that we'll be employing a new workforce of approximately 600 learning support coordinators to work alongside teachers across the entire country.
The money is set to be spent over 4 years on employing 600 learning support coordinators, taking the pressure off teachers.
This will be a game changer for those children. It will be a game changer for teachers who've been crying out for these roles so they're freed up to do what they do best, teach.
The coordinators will also liaise with parents.
These new roles will give parents a single point of contact with someone who understands the needs of their child and will advocate for them as they move through their entire time in school.
It's been 30 years since Labour last held an annual conference in Dunedin. The 1988 event featured loud protests which echoed a bitter split within the party. Ardern described this year's conference as being more positive. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, revellers let loose at a Wingatui race meeting, and Otago scenery featured in the latest Air New Zealand safety video. Welcome back. Some Dunedin locals let loose at the Wingatui racecourse on Tuesday as it hosted a day in the field. Organisers say numbers were down on previous years earlier in the day, but that didn't stop the festivities.
The sun was shining and the bands playing as punters scattered around the Wingatui racecourse today for its annual Melbourne Cup meeting. Otago Racing Club General Manager Rebecca Adlam says conditions are perfect.
So, fantastic day. I brought the sunshine. I think I'll claim that. Hannah's gone to Melbourne and she's at the Melbourne Cup today, the previous general manager, and it's raining over there, so I think that's one tick in my favour.
She says numbers early in the day were down on last year, but a lot of people arrived later in the day. While many were watching the track, some students were in high spirits. In 1 hour at the course, the Otago Daily Times witnessed 3 heated altercations between young men.
Behaviour's fantastic, so Gravity Events look after our student area and they do a great job. So, yeah, it's good. No intox at this early stage, so we're really happy with that.
One of the marquee events is Fashion in the Field, and this year's winner wasn't even sure she was going to enter.
A lot of people were saying to me inside when we sat down that I should enter, at least half a dozen or a dozen even. So I thought, why not? And my mum came with me as well. We come every year to either Wingatui or we've been lucky enough to be to Melbourne for the Melbourne Cup as well, which was pretty cool. So yeah.
And while it may not have had the numbers from previous years, the club say they're committed to Melbourne Cup Day.
It is a flagship event for the club, and we just want to build from here and make it bigger and better and brighter each year. So yeah, bring on the next years.
The next big event for Wingatui is Christmas at the races in mid-December. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Conservation Minister Eugenie Sage has announced the start of Te Manahuna Aoraki, a biodiversity project designed to protect endangered species in the Upper Mackenzie Basin and Aoraki Mount Cook National Park. It aims to cover 300,000 hectares if the initial 3-year phase of the project is deemed a success.
The 1,400 predator traps currently in the Mackenzie Basin and Aoraki Mount Cook National Park are set to increase to more than 3,500, more than doubling the coverage area. Dock Predator Control Ranger Glenn Currell says keeping traps functioning well makes up a big part of his day.
So just little things like, I always carry a scraper just to make sure that, critical sort of edges where things can jam are clear. and it just helps you clean out some of the mess.
More than 20 species will be protected as part of the project, including the world's rarest wading bird, the kaki or black stilt. Department of Conservation Project Manager Simone Cleland says it's an ongoing part of their long-term commitment to the area.
So DOC's been involved in the Mackenzie Basin for a really long time. From a kaki recovery point of view, we've been trapping in the Tasman since 2005. DOC's involvement in this company, we're a third part of the company.
The $4.5 million 3-year phase is being funded by the Department of Conservation, Next Foundation and other individuals and organisations. Cleland says the scheme's impact can't be underestimated.
This project is a really significant biodiversity project. It will protect alpine species such as care, rock wren and scree weta, and braided river species like kaki, wrybill, black-fronted tern, jewel gecko and robust grasshopper.
DOC says the captive breeding program helped 31 birds in 1991, and it's currently close to 200 birds being hand-reared and released into the wild. In the Mackenzie Basin, the South Today.
Air New Zealand's latest safety video is putting Otago in the spotlight, featuring hundreds of locals in places such as Central Otago, Dunedin and Balclutha. Air New Zealand has released its latest safety video thrown back to the 90s with a cast of hundreds of local performers, ranging from the Mosgiel Brass Band to transgender rapper Randa.
And if you see the fasten seatbelt sign, return to your seat, buckle up, cause seatbelts with low and tight across your hips.
Air New Zealand's latest safety video, live in planes, from today. The 3-minute clip, It's Kiwi Safety, sees performers spreading the safety message. The video was shot in about 9 days from Auckland to Dunedin and shines a light on Otago, with filming also done in Balclutha and Naseby. Air New Zealand say at one stage 300 people were on set in Naseby, tripling the population of the small central Otago town. The Naseby scenes for the safety video were filmed back in September, with filming also taking place at the Naseby indoor curling rink. In Dunedin, filming took place at St Clair Beach, with scenes also shot further south at the Balclutha Bridge. Performers in the video include Hunt for the Wilder People actor Julian Dennison.
Thank you, Jess.
And also features hip-hop artist Kings.
Make sure your mask is fitting legit before you go helping the kids.
The music adapts 2 songs, Run DMC's It's Tricky and In the Neighbourhood by Sisters Underground. It's the 18th of the airline safety videos, which started back in 2009. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A fire that engulfed about 5 hectares of pine forest southwest of Lake Hawea was finally declared out and all safe last Sunday. 4 Fire and Emergency New Zealand crews spent the weekend containing spot fires and monitoring the forest on the slopes of Mount Maud near Wanaka. The massive blaze is believed to have started by the roadside near Capel Avenue, the turnoff into Lake Hawea near State Highway 6. An investigation into the cause is ongoing, but a Fens spokesman says the fire is believed to have been started by fireworks. Fens is requesting any photographs or video of the fire in its early stages be emailed to them. A group of Otago Boys High School pupils have taken out the top award at the Young Enterprise Scheme Business Awards. The idea of making conversational te reo Māori easier with a set of cards is the secret of their success.
Playing the cards they're dealt. This group of senior Otago Boys High pupils are off to the national final of the Young Enterprise Scheme Business Awards in Wellington next month. They say coming up with the kuranga playing cards, giving people basic te reo Māori skills, came from a lot of hard work, blood, sweat and maybe tears.
Well, for us it's been a lot of hard work over the year, a lot of arguing, a lot of breakthroughs even, so to come out with this award is really proud, really humbling. Very rewarding as well, yeah. Means a lot. Yeah.
The team hopes their cards can educate more people in basic te reo Māori. They've sold more than 400 packs of the cards so far and are stoked with the win.
So we talk about school all the time, and yeah, I guess it's sort of just not giving up, staying true to who you are as yourself, not letting other people bend or break you for what they, or like change you for what they want to do. Stay true and do what you want to do.
Organisers say the awards hope to encourage young entrepreneurs.
Young Enterprise is a chance for students to unleash their entrepreneurial spirit, whether they choose to go on and work for somebody else later in life or set up their own business. So the awards are about celebrating that entrepreneurial spirit, to celebrate the ups and downs of business, both the successes and the roadblocks along the way.
The recent awards evening featured the top 6 teams competing for the title of Yes Regional Winner for Otago. And Terry Shubkin says the criteria to impress the judging panel sets a high bar, and it's more than just a week or a month's work.
So yes, students actually across the country go through a series of challenges throughout the year, and it's designed to teach them about business and get them doing certain things that are required in business. Now, the top 6 teams were selected through that process of scores throughout the year, and they came and pitched tonight. And so the final winner tonight was the team that best convinced the judges that they were investment ready. So it's basically where the judges would put their own money if they were to invest themselves.
The Young Enterprise Scheme is a nationwide experience-based program for Year 12 to 13 students, giving them the opportunity to set up and run their own businesses. In Dunedin, for South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek. This year's Jet Boat Marathon includes rivers on the west coast, and hundreds of rare grocery store items come up for auction. Welcome back. One of the legs of the 2018 Jet Boat Marathon was held upriver from Greymouth. The first 2 races of the day saw jet boats departing at 1-minute intervals near the Cobden Rail Bridge, finishing up about 20 kilometres upstream at Ahura Bridge.
Attaining speeds up the Grey River of more than 200 kilometres per hour. This year's Jet Boat Marathon included a course up the West Coast River, including racing through Coal Gorge near the historic Brunner mine site. Drivers were already warmed up from the previous day's racing further north on the Buller River.
Even though it's a big river, the Buller, it's quite a challenging river because it comes back on itself, and if you hit those corners at speed, you've got to be really careful in the cornering.
Passing Bainon's Beach, the powerful engines allowed the boats to travel at extreme speeds, creating further challenges for the drivers.
The top boats, they're doing 130 mile an hour, where my boat's a crate motor class boat, and we just sit on about 100 mile an hour, but we're pretty reliable at that, but that's still getting a lot of trouble on that.
While the Grey River is less turbulent than the Buller, the braided channels were keeping drivers on their toes.
We've done 4 legs on the Grey today, and we're just about to do another 2. And it's even though it's a big river as well, it's quite a challenging river. There's braids everywhere, and you have to be on point with a lot of the areas you go in.
This is the 3rd New Zealand Jet Boat Marathon for visiting North American driver Ryan Rogers, but one of his first times on the coast.
The challenging braided waters, and then this whole new West Coast trip that we've made with these rivers have had a whole new spin on it.
Today sees the marathon move to the other side of the main divide, along the Rakaia River. In Greymouth, for the South Today.
St John is defending its decision of not using a rescue helicopter to help a German tourist, as she clung to a windswept ledge high above the sea near Dunedin. DOC is installing new signs and fencing in the wake of the recent rescue at Tunnel Beach. It's also urging people not to walk onto the headland at the increasingly popular tourist hotspot. Tourist Joanna Lagner slipped on wet grass, fell down a rock face, broke her leg and stopped her slide just in time to prevent a potentially fatal fall to the ocean. The 25-year-old Bavarian was comforted and received emergency first aid on the ledge, before being rescued by firefighters using ropes and a Stokes basket. It's understood St John's staff on the ground pleaded for an Otago Regional Rescue helicopter to be deployed, but their requests were refused by the St John Air Desk in Auckland. The dispatch service was centralised last year as part of a 2-year trial. In an emailed statement, Coastal Otago Territory Manager Doug Third said based on information provided from the scene, it was determined a helicopter was not the right response for the conditions. Tiny potted trees, some of them decades old, were on display this week as part of this year's Bonsai Society exhibition. On display were bonsai trees from around the region, some of which have had several decades of being carefully manicured into shape.
Potted miniature trees on display at Dunedin's community gallery. Every 2 years, the Otago Bonsai Society showcases some of the best trees from the region. Bonsai expert Joy Morton has gained an international reputation for her creations, and she got into the art of bonsai after seeing a photo of a tree back in 1970.
I learned how to do it myself. I must admit that I've killed quite a few trees to start with. But over my 48 years of doing bonsai, I have learned.
Bonsai spend most of their time outdoors, only being brought inside for special occasions. They spend the first year or two with wire to bend them into a desired shape.
After about a year to 18 months, you take the wires off, and it's continuous maintenance of just trimming the trees in the springtime and repotting it every couple of years.
Some of Joy Morton's trees are now many decades old, but they can get much older than that.
On a recent trip to China, I actually stood in front of a tree that was 500 years old. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, to think that it's lived for all that time.
The bonsai exhibition runs at the Dunedin Community Gallery until Friday. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
Hundreds of rare and unique grocery store items went up for auction in Dunedin last weekend. The collection included items that were once commonplace in grocery stores 100 years ago, but are now extremely rare to find.
A Lifetime's collection of vintage items owned by former grocery store owner Tony Hart. Over 700 lots of vintage grocers' items are set to go under the hammer this weekend. Ronald Proctor says he's seen nothing like it in his 40 years as an auctioneer.
He collected shop memorabilia, grocery shop, because he owned a Foursquare. It's just amazing bits of everything you can think of, New Zealand and overseas, different tins, Kiwi nugget, everything.
The collection of tins, enamel signs and advertising paraphernalia, some of it dating back a century, are considered to be of museum quality. Most other shop owners would have thrown away the promotional signs, making these items very rare.
A lot of these bits were chucked away years ago. They, so you don't see like a lot of the paper signs or the labels on the tins like they are now, and the advertising so much anymore. Yeah, so it is a very special collection.
Among the unique items is this pair of figurines that once advertised ice cream.
The Staples ice cream, boy and girl, they're very special. I've never seen anything like them. They're made out of plaster.
Tony Hart's collection of grocery memorabilia goes up for auction on Sunday in Dunedin, with phone bids already lined up from both sides of the Tasman. In Dunedin, the South Today.
If you heard witches cackling with glee around Dunedin recently, you may have mistaken it for a Halloween prank. But it wasn't. It was possibly two women who have landed leading roles in a production of Wicked, the musical version of The Wizard of Oz.
Anna Langford and Hayley Lindham are celebrating after finding out they've been cast in the lead roles for Musical Theatre Dunedin's production of Wicked. It's the musical prequel to The Wizard of Oz, and the leading ladies were getting into character. The show's director, Doug Camo, says competition for the parts in the show has been fierce.
Come out of a weekend of auditions. We auditioned over 140, which arguably would be the largest audition that we've done, or casting call that we've done in Dunedin in many, many years. And we were looking for 34 people, so it was a pretty tough process. But I've got to say, in my experience of casting in Dunedin, the standard of auditions was just exceptional. We could have cast a B grade cast as well, got our A grade and our B grade, so we could have cast it twice.
He says the production includes flying witches, magic and a live orchestra, and says the actresses are highly qualified for the roles.
So Hayley Carrick has got the role of Glinda. Hayley is a Dunedin girl, and she was last seen on stage as Christine in Phantom of the Opera. So she's coming back to the Regent Theatre, which is exciting for her and exciting for us. And then of course we've got Anna Langford, who hails from Riversdale of all places, but she's been a Dunedin girl for many years. She spent a lot of time over in London studying at Mount View Academy and on the West End. So she's back in Dunedin now, living here, and so she's been cast as Alphaba. Two very, very powerhouse vocalists, very strong performers, actors, true triple threats, and they'll bring those two roles to life for us.
The musical's told from the perspective of the witches, Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, played by Langford, and Glinda, the Good Witch, played by Lyndham. Camo says this is set to be one of the biggest shows ever staged in Dunedin.
Wicked is a spectacle. In terms of Broadway spectacle, it doesn't get much bigger. The production that we're bringing here in terms of the set, wardrobe, props is of an exceptionally high calibre, as it has been over the last 5-6 years with the productions that we brought here. But Wicked is magical Disney on steroids in a lot of ways.
Wicked is set to open at the Regent Theatre in May next year. In Dunedin, the South Today.
That's all for Southern Newsweek. Get online and check us out on Facebook or keep up with Southern News via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Melissa Barton, thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.